Hello everybody, Andy here. Today I want to do my review of Spearhead, Age of Sigmar Spearhead. What is it? So if you've been following it as long as I have and are for some reason still watching a Spearhead review, why? But also, more importantly, you might have noticed, as I did, a few things that were weird and inconsistent. We had all of the content creators alongside Warhammer community articles saying identical things, which was odd. I haven't really seen that before from GW. As someone that sometimes, not for Sigmar, gets review copies, I will say GW is really good at not telling you what to do. Like, they give you no guidance, they don't tell you say these things, they don't even give you like some other companies do, where they tell you like these are the highlights of the product. So if you don't really know the product, you can still say some things about it. GW doesn't do that. They just give you the thing and they say this is the date you can, if you want, release content for it. Done. So when we had multiple content creators, I won't say who, but otherwise good content creators, quite large in Sigmar, in 40k, in general GW stuff, saying identical things. One of the things they all said was, I can't tell you when or where I have already played Spearhead. That was weird. I don't know why they had to, but they all stressed it. They all stressed that specifically. I don't know why. It's like it's not relevant to the product. But anyway, but they also all really stressed, and again, Warcom as well, they all towed the party line. They all said that this is incredibly tactical, incredibly deep, lots of variation. That's something they all made a big point of, that it's endless replayability, it's fast. They probably said it's fun. I don't remember that, but they probably said that. So anyway, cool. With that all said and done, I wanted to give you kind of a review of someone that is in no way invested in Spearhead or in whatever sort of content creator event the Spearhead team obviously did. So, is Spearhead a good game? Yes. There you go. I just want to get that out there straight away at the start. Is Spearhead its own game? No, not really. Is Spearhead going to be something that people are still playing in 3 years' time when the next edition resets and we go into Age of Sigmar 5? I don't think so. Or, okay, is it better than Combat Patrol for 40k? Yes, infinitely so. Combat Patrol just didn't work, unfortunately. Is Spearhead as tactically in-depth as all of the content creators and the Warcom articles made it sound? No. What do you... Obviously not. So this is the really interesting thing for me, because when I heard what Spearhead was, I looked at it and I said, I don't think that's going to be much of a game. But all the content creators said, this is amazing. And when I pointed out, I was like, well, it's got a small board and you charge turn 1 and then once you've charged you can't really move and like it just seems impractical. Everyone's like, nah bruh. That's not how it is. And I'm like, well, I guess I haven't played the game, so I can't say it, I don't know the rules, but now I have played the game. And basically what I said is correct. There you go. Yeah, that's about it. There's not really a huge amount more to say. However, who should play Spearhead? What should you play it for? So Spearhead is really good. Here's the thing. Spearhead does have some tactics. There are decisions to make, and that's awesome. However, it's a beginner game. It is the learning phase for Age of Sigmar 4. And that's amazing. It does that really well. It's fun because you get to draw lots of cards and you get to make a little decision about do you score it or do you use the strat, right? I think that's an amazing mechanic. I think that's really good. You get to not have to worry about list building. Just put your models on the board. Everybody gets all of these rules for free in perpetuity. And it's just awesome. Like, it's genuinely a really good game, but it is not what it was advertised as. And if we think back to Combat Patrol, that was advertised in exactly the same way, except GW clearly read the room and said, oh, turns out people didn't really like Combat Patrol. Whoops. So for Spearhead, they really pushed that they've playtested it even more than Combat Patrol. But the marketing's been identical. It's been, this is the most balanced, tactical game we've ever released. But, no, it's not. It's a beginner game. It's how you learn the big game. Why aren't they pushing that? That's what most people want from this size of game. You want to buy a one box and you want to learn the bigger game. Why the hell isn't Games Workshop making that the thing? It should be pushed as a beginner game. You can talk about the longevity after that, but genuinely, if you just read the marketing from GW, you would not know that you're supposed to start your journey into 40k and into Sigmar with Combat Patrol or Spearhead. We're talking about Spearhead, I'll start talking about Combat Patrol. But you should. That's clearly what the game is for, what the format is for. It's good. It's a really, really well done game for that. And yes, there are enough tactical decisions in there to keep you interested. Awesome. But why don't they tell you that in any marketing? Clearly, these content creators that got to go to this event went to the event and they managed to talk to the rules guys, the PR guys, I don't know, and they said the same buzzwords that they had been told in their presentation or whatever, which makes sense, I guess. They were treated well by GW, and so they towed the party line, which is how humans work. There's nothing against doing that. But why has nobody pointed out how good it is at teaching people the big game? Because that's what it does, and that's what it's good at, and it is good at. If somebody wants to play Age of Sigmar 4, do you start at a 2,000 point game? No, you'll have a bad game. You start at a smaller game size. You could say 500 points, you could say 1,000 points. No, Spearhead. You don't worry about list building. List building doesn't help you play the game. If you're starting a game, you need to know how to roll dice, you need to know how to move a model, you need to know the concepts of standing on objectives. You need to have the idea of shifting objectives. Spearhead gives you all of that. And it gives you all of that whilst you still get to make a few easy tactical decisions, and there are nuances, of course. You can start to learn about piling in and how where you charge an enemy unit matters just as much as whether or not you charge at all. So this is like, it's all really good. It teaches you the fundamentals of the game. They've encapsulated a huge game and turned it into a smaller game. But my God, they don't tell you that anywhere. And it's not in their party line. I don't get why, because they've done a brilliant job at it. If this was any other company, Spearhead would be considered a roaring success. But it's GW, so they don't do it. It's very odd. They focus the hobby on beginners, but then when it comes to the games, they always focus on the competitive. I think that's quite telling. It tells you who their customer base is. Hobbyists at the beginner end, they don't care about rules. You don't want to tell them that it's a deep competitive game. But the people that are actually going to play the game, you want to tell them it's deep competitive. Nothing's a beginner game for GW. It's a game that you can play forever because it's so tightly balanced. Okay? It's very odd. So should you play Spearhead? Yes. In fact, I recommend you do exactly what I did. I hit the nail on the head. Your first few games of Age of Sigmar 4 should be Spearhead. And then you should stop playing Spearhead and play the full game. Spearhead boxes, I'm sure you remember from my Spearhead points breakdown video, range anywhere from 420 points up to 1,080 points. So they're wildly different in terms of how many points you get. That means your army could be 2 boxes and you're done, or it could be 4 boxes and you're done. So I would honestly just recommend buy one Spearhead and then buy whatever looks cool in the model range you like the most. There you go. You are in Age of Sigmar. Congrats. Should you... Here's a question that I think I'm qualified to answer as well. How do you progress from Spearhead? Do you buy a second Spearhead? Do you buy what looks cool? Do you go from Spearhead to 500 points, then 1,000 points, then 1,500, then 2,000? I'm gonna I'm going to say you should play Spearhead, and then you should play a 2,000 point game. There you go. So that is not something I would recommend for 40k. If you're a 40k player, this is totally different. I would give the opposite advice. I'd say don't play it. But in this particular instance, I reckon you should just go straight for the 2,000 point game. The thing is, a 2,000 point army in Sigmar is not a 2,000 point army in 40k. In Sigmar, it's not that big. Obviously, you could run hordes in anything, but if you've got your Spearhead locked in, you can just kind of add a few models. Basically, another Spearhead's worth of models, and you have a full 2,000 point army. You know, you're going to take some big cool monster, a literal god, right? Even the Lumineth, which are only 550 points and a lot of models, if you want to build that out, you don't have to do the same number of models again. You can go get Avalanor, you can go get Teclis, and like that's a third of your army done, and then you get one other big dude, and like you're basically at 2,000 points. It's a very all the models in Sigmar from a points perspective are more expensive than in 40k. You are going to have not many models on the board unless you want to specifically build a horde, in which case you can. So yeah, Spearhead, go straight to 2,000 points. See how the full game is. That's what I've done. I played 3-4 games of Spearhead over different factions every time, into and against different factions, and I said, cool, I get it. I understand Spearhead. It's a small game. I can play it quickly enough. Not in under an hour. That was another lie from GW, to clarify, but whatever. We're done with the Spearhead bit. And then I'm like, you know what? I just want to play 2K. In 40k, I never want to play 2K. I think it's terrible. I want to play 1K. But in Sigmar, 2K. That's where the game is. And I actually agree with it this time, unlike 40k, which is a total mess. I think that 2K Age of Sigmar is how the game should be played. It's a great point size. You have just enough models on the board. You can really get into your list building, and you're never going to quite have enough points. You're going to always want to take more, which I think is actually a good thing. It's frustrating when you're building a list, but I think it's the way a game should be played, because of course restriction breeds creativity. Unlike in 40k, where you just keep hitting that plus button on those units until you hit 3. And it's like, oh, okay, alright. Now what? Because you could just keep adding points. Everything's so cheap over there. It's mad. Cool, so there you go. Spearhead. Really, really good beginner format. Like, genuinely well done GW for creating that. I think they did really good. And I hope that they take those same lessons and put them into the next version of Combat Patrol. With a few modifications, obviously, because, yeah. And then just go play 2K. There you go. I think that's, yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Big Daddy A.